Gen Z doesn't want to work anymore. This is well documented at this point, and I, as their millennial defense lawyer, think they're absolutely right to not want to work, especially in this horrible economy. The media and delusional boomers, however, clearly don't see it this way, and their logic seems quite sound and reasonable, at least on the surface level. Why should you just get free stuff? You think you should get paid just to exist? Nothing is free in this world, and in this life, there is no such thing as a free lunch. This is why you have to work hard and earn a living. This is the endless lecture boomers and corporate shills keep preaching to justify their modern slavery. Now, I personally don't agree with this premise at all, but this video will not be about my personal beliefs. You see, this video, I'm going to do something a bit different and a bit more interesting. For this video and this video alone, I'm just going to accept their premise as true. Nothing is free. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and you need to work for or pay for everything in life. Let's just give this to them for the sake of argument. The problem is there's a fatal flaw in their logic. One, they never seem to notice. If nothing is free, then nothing you do is free either. If it's really true that nothing is free, that doesn't actually help their case. That actually even more proves that Gen Z is right for not wanting to work. If nothing is free and there's no such thing as a free lunch, then that by definition means that nothing you do is free either. And it doesn't matter whether it's in the context of a job / earning money or not. There are countless ways in which we passively generate value just by existing, whether we work or not. Every time you breathe, you expel carbon dioxide back into the air and nourish the trees and plants necessary for our survival. Every time you mindlessly doom scroll on the internet, tech companies harvest valuable data from you and you don't get any compensation for it. If nothing is free, then going to work itself isn't free either. An unemployed person doesn't have to drive to and back from work every day, and this means they're far less of an environmental burden than someone who works. They're also likely to be a far less burden on the healthcare system as they have more time to eat healthy, exercise, and sleep better without the need to get up early for work. Not to mention, they're less likely to suffer from the massive plethora of health problems caused by work-related stress. There are even ways in which being unemployed provides direct financial and economic benefit to society. Economists and financial experts unanimously agree that some level of unemployment is actually good for fighting inflation. Once again, if it is indeed true that nothing is free, then nothing you do is free either. And as you've just seen, you already provide value every day, whether you work or not. Corporate shills just want to brainwash you that the value you contribute only counts if they can profit off it, whether that's by exploiting you as a wage slave or shaming you for being lazy. So, now that you've seen all the ways in which you provide value without stepping a single foot in the office, a very, very interesting question emerges. How much should you be compensated for it? Believe it or not, an exact dollar amount can actually be calculated. And that's what we're about to do right now. I've made a lot of videos with a lot of arguments as to why Gen Z is right for not wanting to work. And I think this just might be my most compelling one yet. Part 1, healthcare savings. So, it's no secret that work-related stress is an absolute killer that leads to a massive plethora of health issues. But how much exactly does this cost the healthcare system per year? The US spends a total of $4.9 trillion on healthcare every year. Work-related stress is estimated to directly cost the healthcare system $300 billion per year. Divide this by the American population of 340 million people, and you get a figure of $882. This is how much every unemployed person saves the healthcare system per year by simply not having work-related stress. Unemployed people are also more likely to get proper sleep without having to wake up early for a job, or even worse, graveyard shifts, which the WHO has explicitly classified as a carcinogen. Sleep deprivation and all the negative consequences of it are estimated to cost the healthcare system $411 billion per year. Once again, if we divide this by the total population of 340 million Americans, this equals out to $1,208 per year every unemployed person saves the healthcare system just by sleeping. Remember, nothing in life is free. This is their logic, not mine. So in that case, the health consequences of having to wake up early for work are not free either. Now, I want to be honest and objective here. It's worth noting that some of these costs overlap outside of work-related stress, which is proven to be directly linked to work. It could also be argued that some of the costs of sleep deprivation are also linked to work-related stress and thus already covered. How much exactly is impossible to quantify, so I figured the best way to calculate all the savings would be to have both a conservative estimate and a maximum one. So for our conservative estimate, let's be extremely generous and say $100 billion overlaps with work-related stress. So now we're at between $611 to $711 billion per year of Gen Z NEAT healthcare savings. This means each individual unemployed person saves our healthcare system $1,797 per year for our conservative estimate and $2,091 per year for our maximum estimate. This is how much value you're already generating per year just by being unemployed, and we're just getting started. Next up, let's take a look at the negative effects of alcohol abuse and how much it costs our healthcare system. Unemployed Gen Z typically don't have money to buy alcohol. I know this isn't always the case, but more often than not, it is. We see that Gen Z, being the generation that doesn't want to work, also consumes way less alcohol than previous generations. Coincidence? Maybe, but I think not. Alcohol abuse is estimated to cost the healthcare system $249 billion per year. Once again, if we divide this by the total US population, this comes out to $732 of annual savings per person. Now, again, to be fair, there's a lot of overlap with work-related stress and sleep deprivation here, so let's just cut this figure in half for our conservative estimate, which gives us a total of $366. Another huge cost to our healthcare system is physical trauma and injuries, which cost the healthcare system $327 billion per year. This can be especially linked to work in the context of Gen Z, as due to how bad the job market is and how useless college degrees have become, a lot of Zoomers are getting pushed into the trades, which everyone knows are dangerous and puts you at significant risk for injury. But to be fair, a lot of this cost can also be attributed to car accidents, which have a significant overlap with alcohol consumption, which we already covered. So once again, let's divide 327 by the total American population of 340 million, and we get a figure of $961 per person. Let's once again have this for our conservative estimate, which leaves us with $480.5. So, after taking all these factors into consideration, how much do you save the healthcare system every year just by being unemployed? Add up all the annual savings we just calculated gives us a grand total of $2,986 for our max estimate and $2,039 for our conservative estimate. This is how much value you save every year just by not working. Again, how much exactly is hard to quantify and probably depends on the individual. You could argue it's less, but you could also argue it's far more, as there's likely several other factors and healthcare costs that I overlooked as well. One thing we can all agree on, however, is this: however much it is, it's not zero, it's not free. But that's how much you're currently getting compensated for it right now. If nothing is free, then neither is your unemployment and all the healthcare savings we just proved it generates. Part 2, the environment. Nothing is free, and there are no free lunches in the universe. Once again, this is their logic, not mine. So if this is true, this means that the carbon emissions cost of commuting to work and commuting in general are not free either. But how much exactly does it cost? And can we quantify this in an exact dollar amount? Well, actually, yes. The average US driver commutes over 13,000 miles per year. This in turn emits around 4.6 metric tons of CO2 just from car use. According to the EPA, the social cost of carbon, which estimates the economic damage per metric ton of CO2, is between $51 and $190 per ton, depending on assumptions. So this means that Gen Z, by refusing to work, saves the environment anywhere between $234 to $874 worth of damages per year just by not driving to work. The term carbon footprint has been so intertwined with cars and gas that it's the only thing we think of when we hear the term. But there are countless other things that contribute to it as well. Employed people tend to buy more clothing, electronics, fast food, and other goods tied to resource extraction, packaging, and carbon emissions. A study from MIT found the average American consumer footprint produces around 8.1 tons of CO2 per year. This includes, or excludes, I should say, housing and transportation. Now, if you're an unemployed guy living a minimalist lifestyle, you probably emit less than half of that. So let's just say you save 5 metric tons of CO2 per year compared to someone who works. This is another $255 to $950 per year you're saving the environment just by being unemployed. Finally, there's the issue of flights. If you're unemployed, chances are you're not taking many vacations or business trips. The average round-trip flight emits around 1 metric ton of CO2. Let's just say that typical employed person has to take 2 business trips per year along with 2 vacations per year. These 4 flights cost the environment anywhere between $204 to $760. So if we add up all these costs that work and employment has on the environment, we get a total of anywhere between $693 and $2,584 per year of carbon emissions you save every year just by not working. Now, when you combine this with how much we've already saved the healthcare system, we are now up to a total of $5,570 per year that we save the environment and healthcare system just by being unemployed. And we still have a few more levels to go. Part 3, AI. The AI revolution has been at the forefront of the modern discourse around universal basic income. With the amount of jobs it's set to replace, it might just make a UBI inevitable anyways. But we're not here to talk about that in this video. Job replacement aside, there is another and even bigger reason we all deserve a subsidy from the profits generated by AI. AI does not know how to magically talk, communicate, and provide value just by itself. It learned to do so by studying countless terabytes of human conversations all across the internet, including those from you and me. Even if you're just some average person surfing the internet, posting on forums, and talking to your friends, your video uploads, voice memos, and even online conversations can be scrapped, aggregated, and used to train AI models. This is your intellectual property, and it's not free, but you're getting absolutely nothing for it. AI companies pay real serious money to data providers for this information. According to various sources, 1 hour of clean voice audio can be sold for between $30 to $60. 1 million words of text conversation can be worth up to $500, and 1 hour of user interaction data such as gaming, typing, and webcam movements can be worth between $5 to $20. To get a rough estimate of how much this can be worth for you, let's say you spend about an hour a day speaking online, whether that's talking to your friends, gaming, or making content. Most Gen Zers probably spend way more time than that, but let's once again just be conservative here. This means that even by the lowest estimate of $30 per hour for AI voice audio training, you are already generating a stunning $10,950 per year for AI companies, and you don't see a single dollar of it. Now, again, it's important to be fair here. How much of that money should go to you versus how much should go to the AI developer? A socialist would say 100% should go to you. A capitalist would say none of it should, and it should all go to the company. Let's just meet somewhere in the middle and say half of it should go to you. Let's just say $5,000 a year to make the math easier. When you combine this with our healthcare and environmental savings, we are already at a figure of $10,570 per year now, which is inching ever so closer to the $1,000 a month benchmark most UBI proposals suggest. And we still have one more part to go. Part 4, inflation. The Phillips curve is a macroeconomic concept describing the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. Most economists agree that an unemployment rate of 0 is neither realistic nor desirable. This is because a certain level of unemployment is needed to control inflation. Unemployed people obviously spend far less money, which directly helps cool off inflation. This isn't just my personal rambling on a Gen Z YouTube channel. This is mainstream macroeconomics. In 2023, when inflation was soaring, the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, explicitly stated that bringing down inflation would require some softening of labor market conditions, which is just a politically correct way of saying we need more unemployment. So how much value is every unemployed person providing by reducing inflation? A 2022 study from JP Morgan showed that 1% of inflation can cause $500 billion of lost economic value via reduced real wages. The Phillips curve estimates that a 1% rise in unemployment can reduce inflation by almost the same exact 1%. So once again, divide 500 billion by the American population of 340 million, and this equates to around $1,470 annually per person that you contribute to fighting inflation just by being unemployed. So it's time we calculate our grand total estimate of how much value we contribute by not working. After adding up the total cost of healthcare plus environmental savings, along with AI data training and inflation reduction, we get a grand total of almost exactly $12,000 per year, or $1,000 per month, which is what most UBI proposals suggest. Now, keep in mind, this is a ballpark estimate and not an exact science. The conservative estimate using the lower end of the figures we discussed today comes out to around $9,200 per year. You can make an argument it should be less. You can make an argument it should be more. Personally, I think you can easily make an argument it should be way more, as these are just 4 ways I thought of off the top of my head while making the script for this video. There are probably countless other ways in which we passively contribute to society without working a 9 to 5 that I either overlooked or didn't have time to include without making this video 3 hours long. But here's what's absolutely indisputable. Whatever you think the exact amount should be, we can all agree at this point it shouldn't be 0. But that's how much you're getting right now. So the next time your delusional boomer parents or just any typical Gen Z hater tells you, hey, nothing is free, why do you think you should just get stuff for free? You can ask them the same exact question right back at them. If nothing is free, then why should we breathe your toxic carbon emissions for free? If nothing is free, then why should our reduced burden on the healthcare system just be given away for free? If nothing is free, why should we give our personal data to the AI that will take our jobs for free? If nothing is free, why is it that the government is explicitly stating that it's sacrificing jobs for some people in order to combat inflation? And why should their sacrifice just be given away for free? If nothing truly is free, that doesn't prove Gen Z is soft, lazy, or entitled for not wanting to work. It actually even further proves that Gen Z is right for not wanting to work.